Hey, my name is Natalia Lorenzo. These are all of my socials. Follow me if you want to. Let's talk. Today we're going to be talking about weed, but more so how I quit smoking weed after several years of being a literal stoner. And sometimes when I tell people this, it comes off as a surprise, but I've always kept this very off social media because I never wanted it to affect my career or influence the mind of people who follow me, because I always knew that this was a very bad habit that I picked up, and I always knew that one day I was gonna have to cut out this very bad habit. Today is 150 days since I've quit smoking. I can't even believe it. I'm extremely proud of myself and I have no plans of going back. And I have a lot to share, so if you're someone who's struggling with cannabis addiction, because cannabis addiction is a real thing, I really hope that this ignites something in you and helps you, because quitting is very possible. Last year I decided I wanted to be the best version of myself. And this is such a trend now, right? Like being the best version of yourself. It's trendy, it's cute, it's fun, but I'm gonna give you a very rude awakening that is not cute or trendy or fun. In order to become the best version of yourself, you're gonna have to meet the worst version of yourself and kill them. All that cute, trendy, fun stuff is cute, trendy, and fun, but if you want to get to the real deep core, true hard work of truly being your highest, authentic, best, truly best version of yourself, you are going to have to do some serious dirty work. And one of those tasks for me was quitting smoking. Every time I was high, I was such a numb, uninspired, emotionally unavailable person. And I tricked my mind over and over into thinking, oh, weed relaxes me, it makes me chill. But really, I was confusing being numb and uninspired with being relaxed and chill. I would literally smoke and I would lay down for hours in this maladaptive, imaginative thinking state. And I would literally confuse that with manifesting and being creative. Like, this was literally me. I'd literally be slumped, like, just like thinking about all the things I wanted to achieve and what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And I was like, yeah, this is a form of manifesting. It wasn't, and it's not. But it's very easy to make yourself believe that. I became a very heavy smoker during the pandemic because there was literally nothing to do and I was so bored. And it was like a little habit, but then it got to a point where it was bad. Like, I'm talking wake and bake. I'm talking I can't eat till I smoke because the food won't taste good. Or I would literally feel like I have to smoke before I do anything or else I might get irritated. And I would lie to myself so much. I was suppressing my emotions and deep-rooted feelings, and also messages from my higher self. Because when I smoked, it kept me at this low vibrational state. And it made me not realize what it was that I needed to really face within myself. I would just numb myself with weed. Now, we often hear that cannabis makes you creative, it's natural, it grows from the earth, it's been used for centuries. Honestly, whatever studies were done about cannabis when all of that was said are very outdated, because I promise you the chemicals and pesticides that they put in cannabis today, especially in America, especially in California, is so toxic and it is causing chronic illness. I cold turkey quit. And it was hard and it was emotional. And if you sit here and ask me, do I ever wish I could just spark up and make all my worries go away and make all the thoughts that race my mind go away? The answer is yes. But the thing that stops me and brings me right back to my point in the beginning is that in order to be the best version of yourself, you're gonna have to face the worst version of yourself. And when I don't smoke, I have to sit with my thoughts. I have to sit with my fears. I have to sit with my doubts. I have to face my own demons, and I have to figure out what it is that enrages me so bad, that brings me out my peace so much, that makes me want to numb it so bad with a substance. I have to sit with that and figure it out head on, and I can only do that with a sober mind. Because if I smoke, it numbs my reality and it suppresses those much needed, difficult emotions with a substance. If I were to start up again, which I never will, I would just be back to square one, and I'm 150 days in. That's a long time. Once you make it this far, you can't even see square one anymore. And my higher self can't afford to see square one. We've done too much internal work for me to just light up and go back to square one. You know what really made me realize, like, oh dang girl, like, you have an addiction? It was the withdrawal period. It was full on like addict. Like, I felt like, dang, like this is serious. I had really bad headaches, really bad night sweats, nausea, and terrible anxiety for about 11 days. But after those 11 days, I was surprisingly good. Even if I kind of thought about it or would like crave it a little bit, I just thought to myself, like, I just put myself through hell. There's no way I just did all of that for nothing. Now I'm gonna say something that a lot of people might disagree with. I personally don't think gradually cutting back on a substance addiction like cannabis works very well. And I feel like when it does work, it only works for a short amount of times before people tend to pick the habit back up. I genuinely believe that if you want to quit for good, you have to just quit for good. And although that sounds incredibly hard or maybe even impossible, I have some tips. If you're struggling to quit cannabis, this is my personal advice to you. But I want to make something very clear. You have to want to quit. If you don't want to quit, if you're kind of like, you have to want to quit. If you feel it in your bones, it is time for me to quit this habit, then here's what I suggest. If you're nearing the end of your stash, finish it. And as you're rolling up, as you're preparing yourself for your session, make it very, very, very clear to yourself and to your mind, this is the last time that you're ever gonna do this. Even if you don't fully believe it, even if you don't fully think that 100% within yourself, just tell yourself that. But say it out loud. Say it over and over to yourself with meaning. Don't just be like, oh, this is the last time I'm gonna do this. No, say it intentionally to your brain, to your mind. This is the last time I'm ever going to do this. Because you know what's crazy? Our brain is so smart and so stupid at the same time. Our brains believe anything we tell it. And when we tell our brain something a certain amount of times with a certain amount of intention, it will project that reality. And projecting a new reality happens a lot quicker and a lot simpler than people think. I like to describe this as your 2-in-1 body, which is basically just your physical self and your higher self living in one body, your body. If your higher self is calling out to you and telling you, hey, we gotta quit smoking, your physical self just needs to meet that higher self, and once it becomes one, that habit goes away and you'll no longer want to be that version of yourself because you've met your higher self. I really hope that makes sense. You're gonna have to remove yourself from people and from settings that can trigger your old habit. So if your friends are heavy smokers, or you're going out with a lot of people who are constantly sparking up, it's just gonna make it very difficult and it's gonna make you wanna smoke again. So remove yourself from those places and remove yourself from those people. A really cool psychological mind trick that I learned is that saying, instead of you can't do something, say I don't do that. So basically, instead of saying I can't smoke, say I don't smoke. Our minds believe whatever we tell it. So let's say you catch yourself in a situation where you've quit smoking, but the people around you are still smoking, and they go to pass it to you. If you say something like, nah, I can't smoke, it opens up the door for questions and for people to be like, why, how come? Or like, nah, you're tripping, like that's not true, you're always smoking. It makes it really easy to fall into this sort of peer pressure, and it makes it easy to just grab it and smoke it. But if you say the words, I don't smoke, it creates kind of like this firm and final response of, hey, I don't do this anymore. And people tend to respect that a lot more. And eventually your mind will start believing, I don't smoke anymore, or I don't do this certain habit anymore. But if there's ever a moment where the people around you don't respect, like, hey, I don't do this anymore, then those aren't your real friends and you gotta get away from those people. My second psychological trick is to actually smoke herbs. And I don't necessarily condone this 100%, simply because inhaling products of combustion is just not good for your overall well-being. But in times of serious aggravation due to withdrawals, we can really ease those emotions by, once again, tricking our minds. If you were to do the action of like crushing the herbs, sprinkling them into your paper, rolling the paper up, lighting it up, it can really calm those nerves. And I actually did this over and over with lavender. I literally crushed the lavender, put it in my paper, rolled it up, but the only thing that I didn't do was smoke it. I don't know, the thought of smoking lavender, I just wasn't interested in that. But I would literally pack my paper over and over. I would pack it, unpack it, start over, until I eventually got bored of it and it worked. I genuinely believe that the action of just me doing that literally fooled my brain. In that moment, as I packed up my lavender over and over, I just like gained back control of myself. I thought like, okay, wow, that was a shaky moment, but let's move on now. Once again, I don't fully condone smoking herbs, but if you feel like this method might help you out a little bit, some herbs to look into would be like lavender, mugwort, and also chamomile. But also please do your own research, because I don't know too much about actually smoking herbs, since I didn't actually smoke the lavender. If you choose to quit smoking and you need some inspiration, I highly recommend this account. He posts great educational, inspirational videos and has a lot of tips and insight on his channel about quitting smoking, and you should honestly check it out. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope these little tips help. I hope that me being 150 days in can inspire you. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll get back to you. And cheers to becoming the best version of yourself with a sober, high vibrational mind.